Consortium News just published this article, evidence of a US-backed coup in Kiev, Ukraine, which I figured would be good for my series about evidence of the US-backed coup in Ukraine in 2014. Consortium News was recently targeted by the media rating agency NewsGuard for reporting false content, mostly because of this story, so Joe Loria is going to lay out the evidence systematically to defend himself. Firstly, Yanukovych was democratically elected. You can say he's fairly corrupt, and that's fair, but he didn't have these radical extreme right policies like banning the Russian language and letting extremist groups into the military, and he was forced out in 2014, claiming that the far-right group known as Right Sector was at the forefront of overthrowing him. His overthrow was extremely violent and it lasted months and months, and Western media has labeled this as a revolution, but if you look at the level of US involvement, including John McCain visiting the country during the protests to cheer them on and tell them that they had the backing of the US State Department, it starts to look more like a US coup, or what you could call a color revolution. Other US officials like Victoria Nuland also visited and gave support after the violence had broken out. This is the only part of the article I have a small criticism of. They say that this uprising couldn't have been a revolution because revolutions are usually against monarchs or dictators, not democratically elected leaders. And I just think democracy can sometimes be used as a sham or a cover for a system that's not democratic at all, that's worthy of being overthrown. But if you look at the level of US meddling and the amount of money they funneled into these protests to make them happen, you see that they weren't democratic and natural at all. Early on, the NED gave $5 billion just to organize protests. It was shown that $20 million more were spent on 65 different projects or different NGOs in Ukraine, specifically political projects who helped organize the protests and push them to be more extreme in some cases. And this is just what we know about or what's been leaked. And the NED has done everything they can to cover up any kind of information like this. But their president literally said they've been involved in Ukraine since the 1980s, before praising the overthrow of Yanukovych. I wonder if they had anything to do with it. And then there's the leaked phone call between US officials Victoria Nuland and Jeffrey Pyatt, literally talking about how they're going to meddle in Ukraine's politics. They literally talked about midwifing a new government in Ukraine, like guiding it and helping it birth. It's a weird analogy, but you can't say it doesn't work. So yeah, great article here from Consortium News. The people talking about the coup in 2014 aren't conspiracy theorists. Well, maybe some of them are, but that's just by coincidence. Because there's a whole lot of evidence that says this was a US-backed color revolution, just like the ones that they've committed time and time again in the past.